لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي آمين يا رب العالمين. I am extremely happy to have this opportunity to speak to all of you and so many of us that are joining online, and particularly I'm happy to be back in New Jersey where I lived for a brief moment also in my life. I think the only positive memory I have is I got married during the time I was living in New Jersey. But my wife doesn't hold that against me. So what I want to begin with, inshallah, what I'd like to begin with, inshallah ta'ala, is to give you some a landscape of what we're going to try to cover this evening. We have a tall order. There's a lot of things I want to talk to you about tonight that are all, I think, really, really important. I chose this topic and something I've been thinking about and wanting to cover for a very long time, and I don't think, given my schedule, I'll get a chance to cover this topic again. So I'm really grateful that I have this opportunity to share these few reflections with you, inshallah ta'ala. Tonight we are discussing the story of Adam alayhi salam. And in this story that is mentioned in the Quran roughly 7 times, at least some account of the story occurs in the Quran 7 times. There are 2 places that are more detailed than any other place. Those 2 places are Surah Al-Baqarah, and I'll ask you about that later, and you'll have to answer me out loud. The first of those 2 places is Surah Al-Baqarah, and the second of those is the 7th surah, Surah Al-A'raf. So surah number 2 and surah number 7, that is where you find the story of Adam alayhi salam in some detail. But what is remarkable about the Quran is that both of those are very different from each other. They're not similar at all. What Allah highlights in Baqarah, He does not highlight in A'raf. What He highlights in A'raf, He does not highlight in Al-Baqarah. And I personally do not want to give you a mixture of both of those. Actually, this evening is dedicated to how Allah tells the story in Surah Al-Baqarah specifically. Tonight is just about Surah Al-Baqarah. If Allah gives the ability and the strength, and if Allah provides the opportunity, at some other occasion I'll also be doing a dars, a story night on the same account, the same story of Adam alayhi salam, but how it is talked about in Surah Al-A'raf. I believe this is important because we have to let Allah tell the story. It's one thing to tell the story, collect all the details and organize them in your own way and tell the account. But Allah Azza wa Jal decided to tell one piece of the story a certain way in one place in the Quran, and that needs attention by itself. So tonight, which surah are we talking about? Very good, Baqarah. Baqarah. And so we begin with an almost unexpected place. Allah Azza wa Jal says, هُوَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ لَكُمْ مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا. He is the one who created for you whatever is on the earth, jami'an, all together. This means 2 things. Please try and remember. Whatever Allah put on the earth, He made for you all together. There is not a thing on the earth that He did not put in service to human beings. That's what Allah is saying. All of the resources of the earth were made for human beings. The second meaning of the same ayah is that Allah Azza wa Jal made the earth for you, all of you. All humanity has to share its resources. Human beings become greedy, just like nations become greedy. Just like entire blocks of nations become greedy. Just like cities and states become greedy. You'll find, for example, even inside of cities, there are some districts of a city that get more resources and get more government benefits and get better paved streets than other neighborhoods in a city. Because of certain people's greed, there are other people at the expense of other people, some people get more resources. This ayah is actually letting us know a principle of how to live on this earth. That Allah Azza wa Jal made the resources of this earth for the service of all humanity. Human beings have to share these resources and learn to live with each other. This is an ayah to all human beings, not just to the Muslims. And so Allah Azza wa Jalla is letting even the Muslims know that we have to coexist. And we have to share this earth peacefully. This is inside هُوَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ لَكُمْ مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا. But now let's get to the story itself. ثُمَّ اسْتَوَى إِلَى السَّمَاءِ فَسَوَّاهُنَّ سَبْعَ سَمَاوَاتٍ. Then he turned his attention towards the sky. Allah Azza wa Jalla mentions in the same ayah, He made the earth for thing to tell the story, the account. Extremely happy to have, inshallah. But now let's get to the story itself. ثُمَّ اسْتَوَى إِلَى السَّمَاءِ فَسَوَّاهُنَّ سَبْعَ سَمَاوَاتٍ. Then he turned his attention towards the sky. Allah Azza wa Jal mentions in the same ayah, He made the earth for you. Then he turned to the sky. And He evened them up. He divided them up evenly. فَسَوَّاهُنَّ سَبْعَ سَمَاوَاتٍ. He molded them and evenly molded them into 7 distinct layers of sky. You know the 7 skies, the famous expression, right? وَهُوَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمٍ. And He knows, about every single thing He knows all along. He is the all-knowing. Now, what I'd like you to think about is, on the one hand, the ayah began, He created the earth for you. And all of a sudden there's a switch that He went up to the sky. Or that He decided to build the sky. Which doesn't have anything to do with you apparently, right? So half the ayah has to do with human beings, and the rest of the ayah has to do with the rest of the skies. The beauty of this ayah is that both of these parts have to do with the human being. The first part is He made the earth for you. The second part is He turned towards what? The sky. Where is Jannah? Where is Jannah? In the sky. Allah tells us in the Quran Himself. He tells us in Surah An-Najm. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went to Sidratul Muntaha, when he went to the highest possible place, the residence of Jibreel alayhi salam, and he couldn't even go anymore, in the Quran, when Allah is describing that place right under the throne of Allah, right above the 7 heavens, He says, "Indaha Jannatul Ma'wa." Right there is the Jannah where you stay forever. The Jannah of eternity, heaven of eternity, is right up here on the heavens. So in this ayah, Allah first talked about the creation of the earth, and completing the project of the sky also means completing the project of Jannah. And He knows everything. Now you guys know some parts of the story of Adam alayhi salam at least. Where does the story of Adam alayhi salam begin? Does it begin on the earth or does it begin in Jannah? The story of Adam alayhi salam begins in Jannah. In the next ayah, keep this in mind, in the next ayah, Allah will tell us something so shocking. By the way, this is part 1 of 6 of the material we have to cover today. This is section 1, heaven or earth. That is the section we're in, heaven or earth. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. When your Rabb, your Master, said to all of the angels, I am putting a Khalifa, I'm not translating it yet, I am putting a Khalifa on the earth. I am putting a Khalifa on the earth. This is a pretty interesting statement to make. Human beings, their story begins, you told me, I didn't tell you. You told me that the story of Adam alayhi salam begins where? In heaven. And Allah, before He even made the human being, is making an announcement to the angels, telling them that He is creating this thing, this human being, who He calls a Khalifa. We'll get to that in a second. He's creating this Khalifa for the earth. Where is the Khalifa made for? What, according to the ayah? Was the Khalifa made for Jannah? Or was the Khalifa made for the earth? It was made for the earth. Before Adam alayhi salam was even created, the plan always was that this creature has been designed and created for the earth. section 1 of this story, heaven or earth, is important. Because a lot of people think the Sunday school version of the story, which is highly incorrect, is that Adam alayhi salam and his wife, our mother, were having a great time in Jannah until somehow they decided by the waswasa of shaitan, because of shaitan's whisper, to eat from that tree. The second they eat from that tree, they lost their place in Jannah, and as a punishment, Allah decided to send them to the earth. I am letting you know today, the Quran is telling you that actually he was supposed to be on earth all along. That was always part of the plan. That was not a punishment from Allah. Us being on earth, Muslims are very different when they think about this story than how the Christians think about this story. This life, this earthly life is a curse until we get back into heaven. Not for the Muslims. For the Muslims, even before the story began, what did Allah say? He made everything on this earth for who? For you, as a gift. Whoa. I don't know, is that my lunch or? Okay. He made everything on this earth for you. For you. This dunya is not a curse. There are some people, we're living on this earth because our father Adam alayhi salam made this terrible mistake, it's all his fault, etc., etc. We have to pay the price, but if he didn't eat from that tree, we'd still be chilling in Jannah. No. You were meant to be here, just like he was meant to be here. But that creates a really, really big problem. A problem that I have talked to thousands of young people about all over the world. All over the world, the same question over and over again. But before I share that question with you, let me tell you a story that has nothing to do with Adam alayhi salam and has nothing to do with any of this evening. It's just a complete distraction. Or is it? Let's see. There's going to be 2 stories that I tell you. Here's the first story. There is a man who works at a company. He's a good employee. He's doing a good job. And his boss sends an email to the entire department that we are going to transfer this guy to Mississippi. We're going to move him out of New York or New Jersey, and we're going to move him to Mississippi. He's being transferred this week. The only person who never got the email is the guy himself. He's the only one who never got the email. Okay? Now, the next week, the guy comes into his office 30 seconds late. In that section over there. Don't get out of your seats. I'm going to be in that section over there for 7 minutes, then I'll come back. Next break, I'll go to that section over there. Somehow I'll make hijrah upstairs too. I don't know how. We'll figure it out, inshallah ta'ala. Enjoy your break, make some new friends and enemies. The throne of Allah, right above the 7 heavens. Again, but before I share that question with you, let me tell you a story that has nothing to do with Adam alayhi salam and has nothing to do with any of this evening. It's just a complete distraction. Or is it? Let's see. There's going to be 2 stories that I tell you. Here's the first story. There is a man who works at a company. He's a good employee. He's doing a good job to Mississippi. We're going to move him out of New York or New Jersey, and we're going to move him to Mississippi. He's being transferred this week. The only person who never got the email is the guy himself. He's the only one who never got the email. Okay? Now, the next week, the guy comes into his office 30 seconds late. His boss says, "Can I talk to you for a second?" He says, "Yeah, sure. What happened?" "You were 30 seconds late. And I specifically told everyone in the office to be at the office on time. We don't tolerate this kind of behavior. You are being shipped to Mississippi." Is that fair? Everybody else in the company already knew what? That he was going to be transferred. And as a matter of fact, one of his friends who got the email shared it with him. Hey, by the way, you're about to be transferred. And while he was talking to his friend, he got 30 seconds late. And he walked into the office and the boss says, you're going to be shipped to Mississippi. And he says, excuse me? No. You're not shipping me anywhere because I was late. You're shipping me because you already decided that you're going to ship me. That was the plan all along. That's not my fault. You already planned all of this. This is all a trap. I'm not talking about Mississippi, am I? Allah created Adam alayhi salam. He always meant to send him where? On the earth. Iblis comes and tells him, and this is actually in the Quran, Iblis comes and tells him, you need to eat from this tree. By the way, that tree was far, far away. Jannah is much bigger than earth. And there are lots of trees in Jannah, and all of them are full of fruits. Dawata afnan, all of them are full of fruits. All of them have all kinds of, and they come to you, the fruits come to you. You know, you don't even have to make any effort. You're just told, just don't go near that one tree, that one tree of all the trees. And then Iblis comes and says, hey, by the way, from what I know, you were not created for Jannah, you were created for what? The earth. And you need to eat from that tree, and let me tell you why. Because the only kind of people that can stay here are either angels or permanent residents. You are neither of those things. Eating from that tree will either turn you into an angel, both of you, you'll become angels, or you will become permanent residents. I'm not making this up. This is all in Surah Al-A'raf, which is the surah we're not talking about today. إِمَّا أَن تَكُونَ مَلَكَيْنِ أَوْ تَكُونَ مِنَ الْخَالِدِينَ. Either you'll both become angels, or you'll become permanent residents. So the earth. He makes the historic mistake that the earth. He makes the historic mistake that he makes. Our mother makes the mistake with him. They eat from the tree. Allah decides to send them where? The earth. What could they turn around and say? Excuse me, you were always going to send us. You issued an email to all the angels that you're creating a Khalifa for where? The earth. You even decided that before we were even created. Let me tell you the question young people ask me all the time. If Allah already knows what I'm going to do, how's it my fault? Allah's already decided where I'm going to end. By the way, the question of predestination is the oldest question in philosophy. Any of the students here, any college students here that have taken a philosophy course, you have dealt with the predestination problem. People that aren't even philosophically inclined have heard about this problem. Allah already knows everything, how is it my fault? The first human being on the earth was actually the first human being that could have asked the same question directly to Allah. But let me tell you, Another crazy story before we wrap this point up, heaven or earth. Let's understand another part of this problem. I'll give you another story, and that has to do with another guy who works at another company. And he started as a janitor. He started just the lowest possible job in the company. And he got promoted a little bit. They let him become a security guard. He got promoted a few years later. Now he works at the front desk. He got promoted a little later, and after a few years, now he's actually an office manager. And he kept getting promoted. He started outside as a janitor, and 40 years serving this company. He is now the vice president of this company. He's been promoted throughout the years, and now he's in this executive position. There's only one job higher than the VP. Who's that? The president. One day, and let's imagine that you work for the guy. You're just sitting outside his office, you're his secretary, right? And the president walks into the office with this 16-year-old kid with a baseball hat on sideways, chewing gum. This 16-year-old, and the president says, "Hey, by the way, VP, listen, this right here, this right here is your new VP. And you need to give him your chair, because that's his chair now. And why don't you go run and get him some coffee?" What do you imagine happened next? If the VP that has made his way up over the course of 40 years is now being told to serve some 16-year-old coffee because he has his job now, what do you imagine is going to happen? You're going to hear some serious yelling and screaming. What are you, crazy? How old is this kid? He's still in diapers. He's going to take my job? You know how long I worked to get up to this position? You can't do this to me. This is ridiculous. Aren't you going to hear the story? And if you do hear it, who do you sympathize with? That's the really hard question. Who do you sympathize with? The kid or the VP? The VP. But I'm not talking about a VP, am I? Who do you think I'm talking about? I'm talking about Iblis. Shaitan worked his way up. He even started getting considered among the rank of the angels. And finally they've put a rebellion down on the earth of other jinn that disobey Allah. And they come back victors, ready to be honored by Allah. And Allah makes the announcement, you need to do sajda to who? Adam. Excuse me? Who's he? What did he ever do? I just did so much work. I've been doing work for so long. I have provided this administration of Allah so many services. Where does he come along from? Now, you know why I'm bringing this up? Because I'm comparing two individuals. I'm comparing Adam alayhi salam and Iblis. Listen carefully. Adam alayhi salam was honored by Allah. Yes or no? Iblis was honored by Allah at one point. Yes or no? Yeah. Adam alayhi salam was given a position even in some sense higher than the angels. Iblis, some argue leadership over the angels, some argue even at least at the rank of the angels. He was given a high rank too. Adam alayhi salam ended up disobeying Allah. Yes or no? He did. Iblis disobeyed Allah. Yes or no? They have a lot in common. Up until now, they have a lot in common. But there is one difference. Adam alayhi salam, when he was demoted, when he was sent down to the earth, he could have asked a logical question. And his logical question would have been, Ya Allah, you always planned to send me to the earth. How is this my fault? Couldn't he have asked that question? Sure. But did he ask that question? No. Iblis can also ask a logical question. خَلَقْتَنِي مِن نَارٍ وَخَلَقْتَهُ مِن طِينٍ. You made me from fire, you made him from dirt. What is he worth? Look at him. It's actually pretty logical. It is logical. Both of them were in a position to ask or make a logical complaint to Allah. And yet one of them is cursed forever, and the other one, the door of hope remains open. Why? Because one of them decides that whether things make sense to me or not, I have to trust the wisdom of Allah. Whether things make sense to me or not, I have to trust the wisdom of Allah. If there is a fault, whose fault is it? My own. I have to take personal responsibility. I did something wrong. Who is that? Is that Adam or Iblis who takes personal responsibility? Adam alayhi salam. And Iblis says, actually, you made me slip. You knew I was going to mess up. فَبِمَا أَغْوَيْتَنِي. You caused me to be misled. He starts blaming Allah. When you mess up and you blame Allah, you are following the sunnah of Iblis. And when you mess up and you admit that you're the one who's wrong, instead of blaming the qadr of Allah or it was decreed by Allah, then you are following the sunnah of Adam alayhi salam. That's the difference between these two. Now let's take a step further. The earth, I told you, is not a curse. There's a common Christian creed among many from ancient times, common Christian misconception. The earth is a time of punishment. Human beings are born into sin. Not the case in Islam. Allah says, وَجَعَلْنَا لَكُمْ فِيهَا مَعَايِشْ. We put on this earth means for you to live well. Allah wants you to live well on this earth and gain your place back into Jannah. But one more important point before I go on about from the subject of heaven or earth. And this point has to do with, again, personal responsibility. There's a lot of philosophical discussion about predestination, and if Allah already knows, how is it my fault? If something bad happens, it happens because Allah let it happen, so how is it my fault? When people come and ask me this kind of question, even though I can't technically do what I really want to do because it's illegal, but I imagine if I were to be able to take a shoe and throw it at the guy's face, would he be offended? Who would he be angry with? Me. And I could turn around. No. That was the qadr of Allah. You see, Allah decided that you should get hit in the face with my smelly shoe. This wasn't actually up to me. If it was up to me, I wouldn't have done it. You see? But the problem is, no matter how much I try to convince him that it wasn't me, it was who? Allah. He still stays mad at who? Me. I say, okay, fine, you want to hold me personally responsible for what I did instead of blaming Allah. Oh yeah, Allah did it right. You hit me. You hit me. Okay, fine. You want me to hold personal responsibility? Why don't you take personal responsibility then? The question is entirely about what? Personal responsibility. That's what this question is about. Adam alayhi salam decided to eat from the tree despite Allah's instruction. Yes or no? Yeah. And he had to take personal responsibility. And he had to say at the end of the day, رَبَّنَا ظَلَمْنَا أَنفُسَنَا. As opposed to Iblis, who put the responsibility to Allah. If Adam says we wronged ourselves, Iblis says, you made me slip. You made this happen to me. You know, you're the cause. Subhanallah. That is the first of 6 parts of the story that I wanted to share with you.